Welcome to Inside the Octagon. I'm John Gooden with, of course, UFC analyst Dan Hardy. And today, our focus is on welterweight gold at UFC 201. Tyron Woodley opted to wait for his title shot after he decisioned Kelvin Gastelum back in January of 2015. It was a potentially risky strategy, but on July 30th, he will finally enter the Octagon and attempt to win the UFC welterweight title from Robbie Lawler, who looks to defend his belt for the third time. We will also take a look at the rest of the card, but, and I say this with much excitement, our focus is on that main event that goes down in Atlanta. Ruthless Robbie Lawler versus the chosen one, Tyron Woodley, for the UFC welterweight gold. So, Dan, UFC 201 headlined by two scary dudes.
Yeah, and the creepy music just sets it off perfectly as well.
Fits that bill. So, before we get into it, American top team versus American top team.
Yep.
However, different camps, if you like.
Yeah,
so I
different
think
affiliates.
Yeah. Woodley owns his own affiliate, Lawler very much in Coconut Creek. So, I don't think there's too much to look into with that. But lots of other things to look into. Facts and the stats. What do we know about these guys physically?
Well, obviously, Robbie Lawler's got the experience, slight height and reach advantage, but where he has the height and reach advantage, Tyron Woodley makes up for in muscle mass. He's a very physically imposing athlete, and you can see that in his striking power, in his takedown power. It's very easy for him to generate a lot of speed and force in a very short, quick time, whereas Lawler is much more of the power puncher with volume of strikes, as you can see, and obviously a head hunter as well. Most of his strikes are hunting for his opponent's head, which makes this fact even more important. Yeah, second highest striking defence in welterweight history. He's going to need that on the night against Lawler. Okay, well, about Lawler, his head hunting, etc. Striking. Yes.
Very good at it.
Yep.
But you can tell us why exactly it is he's so very good at this.
Well, you know, I've said this before, you can be great on pads. You can look really smooth and really sharp on pads, but be completely ineffective. And I love Wanderlei Silva, but like Wanderlei, he looks terrible on pads.
Right.
But he's very good at getting his feet in the right place to land the punches with power.
Okay.
And Robbie Lawler has that beautiful combination of nice, crisp boxing and good head movement with the footwork to support it. And he's very good at putting pressure on people early, but he's also very good at, if he's got someone that's aggressive like Matt Brown, he's good at giving that space. We've talked about the toe tapping before, where he loads that back leg so he can leap forward. And also the stepping off with the shovel punch as well. That's a punch that he likes to use a lot. But talking about his defence, he's all about getting his head off line, getting his head off the centre. Important here in the Condit fight as well. Condit is a very wily striker, and if you watch the next replay, Condit throws a really sneaky punch, so you can see Condit throwing here. Now, Lawler slipped out of the way of the first punch. He's also thrown his left hook.
Yes.
What you're going to see now is a weight transfer. So his weight is going to shift over from this leg over onto the other side. And his weight is going to transfer onto this foot here. And what that does is that highlights this hand as the power hand, because all of that weight transfer is transferring over into that hand. But it also serves a second purpose, because as Condit throws his right hand and misses, he throws a really sneaky second punch, which is typical of a Jackson Wink fighter who's very creative and throws unusual strikes in. But Lawler's natural defence finds him in a better position to deal with it. So as he's transferring his weight over here, you'll see Condit throw a really lazy right jab out. Look how Lawler slips to the opposite side of it beautifully, right over his shoulder, and creates space for his right hook, right to the face, which knocks Condit off his feet. But that wasn't something that he could have planned. That wasn't. He didn't see that punch coming.
Superior head movement
exactly.
to a lot of the other guys on the roster.
That's it. It's just that shifting from one side, that transfer of balance from one side to the other, which is so important in his defence and will be against Woodley, particularly when he's pressuring him back. Like if we watch here, this is another really important fight as well. I've just caught it at the right spot because being a southpaw fighter, he's trying to control that jab in hand. He's trying to control that front leg because if he doesn't, he's going to struggle to progress forward. So if you stand in your orthodox stance for him, and I'm going to be a southpaw, we've talked about this with Rockhold before. If my foot's on the inside, it works very well for my counter right hook.
Yeah.
But if I've got my foot on the inside and I'm trying to pressure you forward, you're controlling the jab in hand because your hand's in front of mine. Your foot is on the outside of mine.
Yeah.
So as a southpaw fighter, he's always trying to circle to the outside so he can control the jab in hand.
Okay.
And if you watch here against McDonald, you can see him doing this. He's actually going to leap in with this long right jab. And as he does it, he's going to position his foot on the outside of McDonald. There's the jab, and there's the foot placement. And you can see that it's right underneath McDonald's name.
And the difference here, Dan, is I don't think we've seen many other fighters make such a big advance, which means, and with the power that he's got, he's not just tapping the face, he's hit kind of all the way through it, and he's loading up.
It moves him right into range. And what's nice about this is if McDonald would have stayed there, that allows the weight shift over for him to throw his power left. But what it also does is it forces McDonald to circle away. So now he's on this side, vulnerable for the back leg kick of Lawler, which is also a very dominant weapon of his, the kick in the knee, which we'll talk about in a second. But controlling that jab is so important. Like if you watch the next clip, you'll see the importance of the jab. But there's the jab, and it puts him right in range for that power left. Obviously upsetting McDonald's balance, it buys him a second, and then as the fight progressed, this is almost the last round now. This is when we're right towards the end of the fight, where McDonald is hanging in there. But it was the slip into the outside. Look at that beautiful slip there. Now, if that hadn't have happened, they'd have traded punches. Lawler would have eaten a jab, and he may have landed his straight left at the same time. But because he slips to the outside of it, not only does it allow him to get closer to McDonald, but you've got to think his body weight's moving forward. Like McDonald is throwing this punch, so his body weight's moving towards that. So he's actually moving onto the punch at the same time, which is another benefit in slipping. And what we'll see with Woodley in later playlists is that he backs up to the fence. So if he doesn't have an option of going backwards, he has to go forwards. Yeah. So then if Lawler can find his way inside by slipping to the inside or outside, it can cause him all kinds of problems.
So this is moving off the centre line. He's
moving off the centre line. Exactly. And it's a natural thing for him as well. Look, the punch is right at the side of his face while he's reaching and landing that clean left on McDonald. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back. He just couldn't take any more than that. And it was the effective striking that won that fight predominantly. I mean, Lawler's takedown defence was excellent in the fight, and his pressure moving forward was key, and that's going to be so important against Woodley as well. OK, right. Well, we've had a great bit of feedback from the fans, Dan. We've got a load of questions. We've got two today. All right. Let's go to the first one. And who shall we go with? Let's go with Rory. I think we've heard from Rory before. Thanks to everyone who sent their questions in, by the way. Both usually stay in opposing stances, orthodox versus southpaw. How does Woodley avoid this becoming a battle of the cross? So Woodley has an over-reliance, in my opinion, of that power hand. He does. He does. Everything about his game revolves around it. It's all about the power right hand. And we see it in other fighters. We see it to a certain extent with Robbie Lawler with his left hand. He knows there's power in that. Yeah. We see it with Anthony Johnson as well. He'll brace his opponent and hit him with the power hand. Woodley does the same thing. He's a very athletic guy, and that's what allows him to get away with it. But it serves several purposes. Not only does it allow him to maintain distance, but it allows him to create distance as well. Now, Condit can take a damn good shot, and that knocked him back. So immediately you got that respect. But once Woodley's found that target, he will look for it over and over again. And the target is always the jawline or the temple on that side of his opponent's head. Now, the question about southpaw orthodox is very important. Look at this sprint against Jay Haran here. Just swarmed him. But again, the targeting comes straight over the top, right on the temple. There was no getting up from that. Knocked off his equilibrium, knocked out his balance. And as soon as he's dropped him, he's fast enough and he's powerful enough to capitalise on those situations where he'll run in and swarm him. But against the southpaw, it changes things. Now, Robbie Lawler has been fighting orthodox fighters. There's always an abundance of orthodox fighters. But Woodley has not fought many southpaws. And this is his fight against Gastelum. Now, the fight before this, it's worth mentioning, the fight before this was Don Young Kim, which was, what, a minute or something? Yeah. It wasn't long enough for him to settle into a game against a southpaw. Then he fights Gastelum, another southpaw. Now, he hasn't taken any other fights. That's right. It's almost like he's prepped himself for a southpaw champion. They don't want to break this rhythm, this programming that he's got. Exactly. He's getting his head around it. Let's not upset it. That's it. You get into a rhythm, you get used to particular techniques. He struggled with Gastelum early on, but he did make adjustments. So watch the right hand. Watch the right hand falling short. He's catching him on the side of his hand. He's missing him. He's catching him on the side of his glove, over the top of his head on that one. But then he realised there's a point where he goes, OK, I throw a straight punch, that works. So given the fact that he's just fought two southpaws, he's already kind of worked that out. He's not going to have to worry too much about adapting a great deal for Robbie Lawler. Obviously, he's more comfortable fighting orthodox fighters. You can see here the focus on the right hand in particular. And when he lands it, I mean, it's got a lot of power in it. Look at that. Switch Koscheck off immediately, then jumps on him, lands a couple more punches. But when he's landing it, look how short and bent the arm is. And this is why I think he was falling short initially against Gastelum. Because when he's throwing this punch, he's pulling it really short. He's got a lot of bend in it and quite a lot of torque and twist.
Yeah.
Whereas against the southpaw, you've got to throw it straight.
Yeah.
Because they're further away.
Yes.
So he's had 2 fights to make those adaptations. He didn't have a chance against Don Young Kim because that was over so quickly. But against Gastelum, we saw him struggle in the first round. He made those adaptations, and ultimately it was a successful fight.
Bit quicker as well, the straight punch over the looping crosses and hooks and things like that.
But the benefit in the overhand is that he can throw it as he's sprinting.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? It doesn't stagger his movement so much, and that's why he's been so successful with it, because that sprint start that he has is so quick off the mark.
Okay.
That as he's moving forward, they're panicked because they see him surging forward. Then out of nowhere, there's a big overhand right that comes. His focus on the right hand, it could be an issue though, because that gives Lawler one thing to focus on.
Okay.
You know, so Lawler can build his whole game around, okay, there's this right hand coming over and over again. So he can set up all his slips inside, outside, and find his way in. So that's something that Woodley's got to add to his game. He's got to round it out a bit, or at least go back to other elements of his game that we know he's strong at.
Okay. Well, it's funny you should say that, because it segues quite nicely into the next playlist for Lawler. He's used knees and kicks, particularly early in his career. He was, I think in Pride he came out, he got a flying knee KO. He has shown this in his game. Less of it these days, but I think he's started to use that variety. He's definitely got weapons when it comes to using his legs.
He has. And what's nice is that because he's such a powerful, he's a left side power guy, he's got his powerful left punch, which he throws straight over, or the shovel punch. Yeah. But he's also got several techniques he can use off his back leg, namely the body kick and the knee. But because they look so similar, it's easy to disguise them. It's easy to make them look very similar. We saw it in the Ellenberger fight.
Physically, he appears like he could be doing any one of those.
That's it. Now, if we look at him fighting another southpaw in Hendricks, early pressure straight on, because this was the second fight. Obviously, he was upset with how the first one went, and he wanted to make a statement here. And in the early goings, first 15 seconds, he's on him immediately. And it's all about the jabs and the knee, the back knee, because it's such a safe thing to throw against a southpaw against the fence. And then at the end of the fight, once he's opened up a bit, he's defended a few takedowns. Now he's switched over to kicks, so now he's working the body in a big way. And you love this, don't you?
Pause that for a second there, because I think it's worth saying that Lawler is a fighter. I ask the question sometimes to fighters whether they consider themselves athletes, martial artists. He is a fighter. And I remember in a recent press conference he was saying the reason he did this was because, in his eyes, the fight's not done. Yeah. He wants to finish someone, literally turn their lights out. This isn't an act. No. That's not posturing. No. That's how he is. So just another thing that Woodley's got to deal with. Like the Terminator, Tom Poe was walking down Hendricks there. It's crazy, fascinating stuff.
And what's interesting as well after this, as soon as he got the belt around him and Hendricks came up to congratulate him, he said, we've got to do this again. Like, immediately, it's not finished. He wants another 5 rounds straight away. Yeah. So that tenacity is going to bode very well. And it paid off really well against Matt Brown, who is known for that kind of tenacity. Couldn't hang with Robbie Lawler. Got backed up against the fence. The body kicks were devastating in this situation. And this is where I see Woodley struggling if he gets tired, if he gets backed up against the fence. Now, we talked about the knee. So look how he's programmed Ellenberger with this. We've talked about it in a previous breakdown before. He lands a few of those high kicks to set him up, so he's now expecting that high kick. There it is again. He's not even interested that it's landing on the arm. Yeah. All he's doing is he's just programming. It's the repetitive nature of the attack that he's using, because now Ellenberger is expecting this.
I guess that's like when we hear corners go body, body, head when everyone's grappling. Body, body, head. Body, body, because
like presets. Yes. They're presets, and people fall into those patterns. Yes. And the best fighters are the ones that can manipulate those patterns and get you to fall into theirs. Right. Which is what Robbie Lawler's very good at, and so is Mark Hunt. You know, 2 great, very well-seasoned strikers that are good at laying those traps. And that is what he did against Ellenberger here. Now, we talked in the previous Lawler playlist about how he keeps his foot on the outside. The benefit in this is also that he can use his jab and his right hook to circle them in the direction that he wants them for this kick. Right. So as this fight progresses, you're going to see him land a really clean jab here. That changes the fight. That's Ellenberger looking away. Now, people say that he was actually looking to the referee there. I don't think he was. I think that had altered the focus of his eye, and he was trying to refocus himself. I think that's what it was. Because that, it did a lot of damage to the orbital bone, if I remember right. So now that's happened, he's backed up against the fence, and now he's under pressure, and Robbie Lawler knows that the finish is coming. But in this situation, he's going to try and set him up. He's already programmed him that kick's coming. He's already worked that. So Ellenberger, as he slips to that side, he's going to be covered on this side. He's going to keep this hand up, but he's got to make him slip. So the first thing Lawler's going to do is throw a lazy right hand out to the side. He's literally going to throw it to this corner here. It's going to aim for that spot just there, right past Ellenberger's head. So as he throws it out, Ellenberger's going to shift to the side with his hand up, and he's going to step straight in with that knee. And I'm going to play it to you slowly so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So here goes the lazy jab. Wait for it, thinking about it. Look at the intensity in those eyes. He knows what's coming. There it goes. Look, not even an intention of landing it.
Yeah.
Ellenberger drops down and he goes straight onto the knee. And because there's already damage to that orbital bone, as soon as that knee lands, even though he took it on the arms, it still caused a lot of pain. Yeah. And that was the end of the fight. And that is one of those situations where Robbie Lawler has decided what he wants to do. He's picked the opportunity and he's circled his opponent onto it. And he does his best work against the fence. He does his best work when he's got his opponent in a situation where he can then make decisions for them. And one thing I will say about Woodley is he allows that. Because he's so focused on his right hand and because he's got so much power, you'll see him backing up against the fence and he'll throw it to try and maintain distance, but he doesn't throw it enough to keep it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you'll see his opponent pressuring him quite confidently. That's where he's going to struggle with Lawler.
Another thing I noticed with Woodley, and I think it plays in as a response to that playlist, when you've got Lawler throwing such heavy shots, for me, Woodley has got statistically very good defence, but he seems to use his hands a lot.
Yeah.
He doesn't move his head a great deal. And I remember a GSP clip where he used to say, you know, keep your hand away from your face, these 4-ounce gloves, don't do an awful lot to protect the chin. When you're being hammered away by the shin bone of Lawler, or indeed, you know, just his hands, I don't think that's going to be enough.
No. And if you go back to, I mean, this is a history trip for you guys. If you go back to Chuck Liddell against Tito. Now, Tito was famous for his crazy monkey defence.
That's right, yes.
He would use that a lot against the fence, so you would back him up, and Chuck Liddell was typical for backing and just wailing on people.
Yeah.
If you watch that replay, the best punch that Chuck ever threw was a straight punch to Tito, because Tito's standing there doing crazy monkey, defending all the hooks, and then a straight punch comes straight to the middle. He goes, hook, 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 bam. And that's the one that drops him. And Lawler has the knowledge and the observational skills to see that opportunity. So the head movement is going to be a key for both fighters in this, but obviously it's more natural to Lawler than it is to Woodley.
OK. Twitter sphere has spoken again. And we're going to go with, oh, look at this. Amazing one. Like what you've done there. Who's got better MMA grappling, Woodley or Lawler? I like this, Dan. It just shows the evolution of the fans. Now, we're starting to understand it's not just wrestling, this, that and the other. Chain it together. And what's good for the sport?
If you want a wrestling coach to teach you how to be good at wrestling for MMA, I'm not saying Woodley's not the best guy to go to. His wrestling credentials in comparison to Lawler's are considerable.
Yes.
But there's much more to grappling in MMA than just wrestling. Now, Woodley's got good takedowns, he's got good pressure. He doesn't keep it up, though, he doesn't maintain it. So where Lawler wins this exchange is in his conditioning, is in his gas tank. If you take him down for 4 rounds, in that 5th round he's going to get up and try and knock you out.
We saw that against Hendricks
Exactly.
too.
And he's been through those fights. He's been through those grinding situations where he's had to constantly lift the guy off him and get back to his feet. So in these exchanges, who's got the better MMA grappling? The person that can maintain it over 5 rounds, which in my opinion is probably Robbie Lawler in this situation. But Woodley, you'll see him shoot under pressure. So again, backed up against the fence. Now he's going to catch a kick here, which is going to be important against Robbie Lawler because we know he throws a lot of kicks. Now obviously that was the other side, but he still has that awareness. Again with Carlos Condit, pressuring him against the fence, a beautiful double leg, and he just powers through them. And you'll see as he hits this power double as well, the most comfortable thing for him is to get his hands together. Now, you can see his hands are clasped. It's very natural for him. As soon as the opponent steps into level change, and he's not even level changing a great deal.
No.
It's a very short level change, just to go right under the arm. He gets right underneath the hips, so he's high on their legs, and he can pinch their legs together and just lift.
So strong.
I mean, just look at his legs. I mean, he's got so much power. If he gets you in that position, he's taking you for a ride. There's nothing you can do in that situation to stop that. So you're going to have to rely on the scrambles, again, where Lawler is very strong. Yeah. So that's going to be taxing on Woodley, because the question is, can Woodley keep it up? Can Woodley do it for 5 rounds if he can't strike with Lawler? And that's my question. Again, here, drives and he gets the takedown. That's actually where he injured Condit's knee in that fight, which was finished with the low kick.
But it wasn't actually the kick on that side, it was the standing leg,
yeah.
So we think it was about that time.
So this is what I'm talking about with hip movement. Now, this is where Robbie Lawler is going to need this against Woodley, because if he's pressuring him against the fence, Woodley's either going to be attacking with his right hand or he's going to be shooting. And if he's shooting, Lawler's going to need his hips to be getting away, because he doesn't want Woodley on top of him. He doesn't want to have to deal with that mass that Woodley can control and can lay on him, and that right hand that he can constantly pound away with.
Is Woodley better than Hendricks, though, at that? Because Lawler did very well against Hendricks about getting out of those situations.
He did. And the thing is, we've seen Hendricks drop off as the fight goes on, and he's got 5-round conditioning.
Yeah.
Now, we've seen Woodley go, I think we've been to a 5th round one time in Strikeforce, and he lost to Markle. I'm pretty sure that's right. But we've also seen him fade over 3 rounds. So if he goes out there with, OK, I don't want to deal with his striking early on, I'm going to have to take him down. If he takes him down for 2 rounds, he's still got 15 minutes to do that. And can he keep that up?
Yes.
We know Lawler can keep getting back up to his feet, back up to his feet. So then there's the argument in Woodley's head, do I take him down for the first 2 rounds and try and get that early lead? Or is that going to tire me out and then I'm susceptible to the power and the setups of Robbie Lawler? It's a real tough question and a tough dilemma for the ATT guys on Woodley's side to figure out.
You also made a very good point when we were off camera talking about this. There's not enough volume from Woodley to force back Lawler.
No.
So he is going to be forced back against the fence, and he will shoot.
He will.
Because he'll be in that situation. So we will find out in this fight.
Most definitely. He'll feel pressured because Lawler's natural, his operating system is to push you back.
Yes.
You know, it's instinctual for him. He will go and take the fight to you.
OK. The next one is a good one.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of an X factor in this.
Well, yeah.
It's the leg kicks.
This is the ace card for Woodley, in my opinion.
Yeah. And we've seen through, and you're about to show, we've seen through the career that Lawler hasn't, in my opinion, dealt with leg kicks very well.
No.
But there's a bit more to it than that, which I'm sure you're going to elaborate on.
Well, we've not seen a great deal from Woodley. When he does land low kicks, they're devastating, though. I mean, they're so powerful. And that's, I mean, if you look at the thickness of his legs, you can imagine. I mean, here against Koscheck, obviously he's fighting another southpaw fighter here, but you can see the power. But when he fights a southpaw, the inside low kick really upset the balance of Gastelum.
Yeah.
And that's what Lawler's struggled with, is the inside low kick. Yes, he does get eaten up on the outside, but he will eat them to throw his left hand.
Yeah.
The inside is what's affected him the most. And you can see here we've got the toe tapping, and Condit uses that low outside leg kick just to upset that balance. Here he is again using the inside. That's going to be important if he's under pressure, to constantly keep chopping away at that inside low kick, because that's going to alter the way that Robbie pressures. That's going to make him hesitant.
Hendricks looked brilliant when he mixed in those low kicks.
Well, look at that.
Let's
just go back to that stat just there, because the reason I picked this clip is because of that stat. So this is the beginning of the 3rd round. He's already landed 37 leg kicks. And Lawler didn't have an answer for any of them. He started to kind of jump at them and kind of try and check them and stuff, try and counter them with punches.
He tends to just let the weight go with it, like rolling with the punches.
Exactly. Allows, kind of like he does with his boxing, where he rolls and allows his body to kind of absorb the power and
But he's well out of shape, normally.
Yeah. It doesn't work very well. And the one that we saw it most of all was the Manhoff fight. Look at this. But this is the X factor with Robbie Lawler, the thing that we can't get away from. So if we watch this, look at the power in that kick. You can see what we're talking about with Lawler. His leg just flies out to the side. And this was focusing on the top of the calf below the knee. It really took a lot of the power out of his movement, and it really made him hesitant in moving as well. You could see him kind of limping back in this fight. But he's backed up against the fence. He's like a caged animal. You back him up, you poke him with a stick, he closes his eyes, he bites down his mouthpiece, and he wings a big punch over the top. And this is what happens. Look, eyes closed, face down, boom. Switches a man off. And he lands on the canvas. One more good clean punch, and that's the fight over. And same with always with Robbie Lawler. You've got to drag him off his opponent. I mean, like he's there for business.
Yeah,
you know?
He's not looking at the referee to, help me here. No, I think he's had enough.
Not at all.
He is focused until all that noise is out of it. He's there.
Exactly. So to round it up, obviously, we've got Lawler as the southpaw, who's going to be trying to corral Woodley onto that back leg of his. We've also got Woodley, who is going to be backed up against the fence, but he's going to be constantly firing that right hand to maintain distance. If he can use that inside low kick, it's going to be useful. If he can get the fight to the floor, it's going to be useful. Maintaining it over 5 rounds is the challenge for Woodley, and that's where Lawler excels. It is, again, 2 dynamic athletes. One can finish the fight early, one can beat you up for 25 minutes. Both want that gold.
2 exciting fighters as well. Woodley's waited a long time for this. Been inactive. Will it play a part? Who knows? But there is more
always
to watch at UFC 201. We also have some European interest. Pearson and Krylov down.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this fight. I like Ed Herman. I've trained with him a bit in the past, and he's got a very Frankenstein kind of style where he just kind of plods forward and bangs. He's a very heavy striker. And since he's moved up to light heavyweight, I just think he looks so much better. I think middleweight was a real push for him. And the same with Krylov as well. Since he's moved down from heavyweight, he just seems to fit better in that weight class.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to think he fought Sir Palale, who was a monster. So he fits better at light heavyweight.
When he was about 12 as well, and he's getting better all the time. Kicking off the main card, Uncle Creepy McCall, always like him.
Yeah.
And we are going to be taking a look now at Namajunas versus Kowalkiewicz, followed by Brown versus Ellenberger. So let's not have you wait any longer. Let's get into this.
Yep.
Namajunas, apparently her coach says that it all depends on her mindset on the day. I really think she is a brilliant mixed martial artist, chains everything together so well. Saw it against Paige Van Zandt.
Yeah.
Super excited about this fight.
Well, that Van Zandt fight was a real standout performance for me. And we've got to keep an eye on this fight because one of these ladies is going to move towards the title shot. There's no doubt about it.
If it's not an eliminator as it is.
Exactly. I mean, Rose is on a 3-fight win streak. A win here would be massive for her and move her right into position. Obviously, Kowalkiewicz has maybe another fight in a way, but she's well on her way already. 2 wins in the UFC so far, and she looks dynamic. But Rose is just tenacious. I mean, that really came out in the Van Zandt fight, but we see it in all of her fights. When she's latched onto a submission, she's not letting go. And she's got that natural meanness as well, that natural ability to just be horrible to people, which a lot of fighters
nasty.
don't have.
Yeah.
Joanna has it, and that's why it would make a really interesting fight. But obviously, when she's latched onto something, I mean, she's just not letting go. She's going to stay clamped onto that until she gets the submission. And a bit of homework for you. Get on Fight Pass and go back to Invicta 5. Invicta 5. It's a beautiful flying armbar from Rose. She comes out, forces a trade with strikes, and then latches onto an arm and jumps. And it's a beautiful fight, so make sure you check that out. Her opponent, though, what a striker. What a striker. Aggressive, tenacious, she's got a high pace, she's got a really nice spinning attack, spinning back kicks, spinning elbows, spinning back fists. I mean, it's just
stuff.
Yeah, all the fancy flash stuff she's very good at. And she's good at fighting over her opponent's guard as well. She's good at being very imposing in her style. I mean, she's very slight in her build, but her style is very aggressive. And I mean, her and Rose head to head in the centre of the octagon is going to be fireworks. I think Rose has got a more well-rounded game.
Triple attack.
Exactly.
Well. Triple threat.
But where Kowalkiewicz has got the striking advantage, I think Rose makes up for it in her well-roundedness. So it's a very evenly matched fight and a very important one for the title picture.
Another fan favourite fight as well, Brown Ellenberger.
Yeah, really excited for this one as well. Obviously, Brown was on a 6-fight win streak, doing really well until he hit that title picture bracket, and then he started to struggle. You know, the loss to Lawler really kind of set him back, and he's won 1 of his last 4. But he's still got the skills. He's still a very dangerous and very tenacious fighter. And he's got to stop this slide right now. If he continues down this path, he's going to keep falling out of the picture. And that's where Ellenberger's at right now. Again, a guy that was on a really good win streak, that was starting to impress, starting to be talked at in title contention conversations, and then hit a slide. And that was the only fight he's won in his last 6, I believe, is the Koscheck fight. He has the skills, he's got the ability, he's got the athleticism, the wrestling ability,
power.
Clearly got the punching power. But in these last sort of 2 or 3 years, he's been moving around to different camps. I'm not sure whether something's not working right for him or there's been a change in his lifestyle or whatever, but something's not comfortable, it's not working right. And this is an opportunity to catch another guy who's on a slide, use him as a leg up and recover that UFC career. And you've got to think, this welterweight division, they're constantly signing new guys.
Yeah.
So if you're not on point and staying competitive, you'll be replaced very quickly.
Well, talking of welterweights, they will be coming up as we look ahead to the schedule. But first, we will see young, dynamic fighters in Yair Rodriguez against Alex Caceres. Then, that welterweight bout, Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor. OMG, we're doing it again.
Yeah, I've not stopped talking about it since the last one. What a great fight, and we will be talking a lot about it.
We're going to talk a lot about that one.
I'm sure.
That's all from us for now, but we do have some extra content for you as Dan faces his 1-round challenge on the Pearson Masvidal bout. Let's keep the conversation going in the comment section below. You can also reach us on social media using the hashtag #InsideTheOctagon. But for now, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Have fun watching 201 unfold, and we'll see you next time.